Greetings, Mr. Duarte. Here is the presentation for the two articles you sent us to the workshop. My team is Ana Brito, Jesus Jimenez, Daniela Orozco, Maria Suarez, and me, Oscar Salcedo. Regarding the main ideas of the article, on the different approaches firms use to set strategies, we find that they try to address how companies make strategic choices with four different approaches. They made a survey, and in that survey measured how much the level of process and the input from employees are taken into account for the decisions. The first way to make strategic choices on the firms are the unilateral firms, where leaders can make decisions quickly without the constraints of process complexity and debate, but they also can lack of check and balance. Most of the progress rely on the leader in this type. The first way to make strategic choices on the firms are the unilateral firms, where leaders can make decisions quickly without the constraints of process complexity and debate, but they also can lack of check and balance. Most of the progress rely on the leader in this type. In administrative firms, they have lots of well-defined routines and instructions on strategic decision making. It is an extensive process, and the amount of data and filters can be positive to the future opportunities and situations. But these rigid processes have the disadvantage of not considering opinions and new ideas because of the tradition of. We also find that the collaborative firms inhere employees make a detailed process that ensures that the leader don't miss any steps. The frequent input ensures that they don't miss any information. But on the other hand, the inflexible system can potentially slow down decision making and prevent firms from acting on time-sensitive opportunities. In the other text, What is a Strategy?, there are portrayed the differences between operational effectiveness and strategy and how both affect and are important to the firm. We also found that it's mandatory to set the strategic position by looking at the source of it. This source can be variety-based positioning, needs-based positioning, and access-based positioning, and they influence how decisions are making regarding to the position of the firm among the competition. They also highlight the key progression doesn't infer a static perspective on rivalry, like in competition. An organization should constantly improve its operational viability and effectively attempt to move the efficiency outside. Simultaneously, there should be continuous exertion to broaden its uniqueness while reinforcing the fit among its exercises. In any case, an organization may need to switch its vital situation because of a significant basic change in the business. An organization ought to pick its new position contingent upon its capacity to discover new compromises and influence another arrangement of corresponding exercises into a manageable bit of leeway. Now, the opinion about the differences between Porter's article and our article. We found that both articles seek to explain how important it is for a company to establish its strategy, since it's proof the guide that defines how everything will be done in a company. This must be chosen taking into account the type of businesses and many other characteristics of it. In the same way, the strategy is essential at the moment of competing because it determines the future of the organization. It is essential to know that a strategy begins with a decision that is clearly reflected in actions and in all the processes of the company, and obviously before making decision it is important to understand very practice that the company does work well. Firstly, it is necessary to understand that operative effectiveness and strategy is not the same. In a business, the operative effectiveness is necessary, but at the same time, this process is easy to be imitated for the competitors, and that is it is interesting that most organizations use operative effectiveness as a basis for competition, but this is only part of the process which must be accompanied by a strategy to make the company's performance superior to the competition. The differentiation begins by choosing the activities that the company will do, but also how they will execute those activities and how the activities can create a difference in the long term. Nowadays, the organizations have to create value to customers or create a comparable value at lower cost, and that is possible using only the operative effectiveness in the correct way. On the other hand, in the article, the different approaches firms use to sell strategy, the question is raised, which is your strategy? However, the question is not easy to answer. That's why a matrix is raised having two variables, level of process and input from employees. And from these four approaches are derived ad hoc, unilateral, administrative, and collaborative. These different approaches, they talk about their benefits, disadvantages, and type of COs, concluding finally that the strategy making approaches are chosen according to the one that best fits your specific context. It is a very general article. If we compare it in what is strategy, Porter clearly defines the strategy and how it creates value for consumers by creating different activities. Besides, he explains how these activities must be adapted to strategy in order to create a competitive advantage and to adjust it to make it sustainable. These adjustments are made to improve uniqueness in a system and amplify trade-off because it is more difficult to competitors to copy or match activities that are interviewing than to copy. And in general terms, Porter gives us a guide of which is the best approach to apply without the need to have talk about them, explaining the different terms that this entail and broadens our vision of what is real strategy and how to make it sustainable by relating the activities and thus creating a sense and how having good operational effectiveness is necessary but not enough. Although it does not work if there is a good strategy but no operational effectiveness, these two complement each other, order to generate impact on consumers. Now we end with the point 3 of the workshop, and that asks us what do we think are the best points of the article to use in real life. Based on the article we read, we can link several terms and strategies to help in our life like future businessmen. Considering the research that Kimberly Marmoset and its team realized, the information, the adaptability, the implementation, the learning process, and the communication will play fundamental roles in our everyday to know the approach that the company needs. As managers, we must evaluate arduously in what position the matrix our company is, to be able to take current and efficient decisions. What type of company are we? Are we unilateral because our process level is quite low and we do not think on our employees in the decision that we take? If so, we must establish what point to move within the matrix, considering our weaknesses. Perhaps the company should not make quick decisions without considering a specific point of view of the employees. What if we are ad hoc because we don't have clear decision-making processes, but a whole team dedicated to it? If so, it analyzes how timely and quick the decisions have been made. On the other hand, are we an administrative company because our processes are timely, but we do not link employees to decisions? And if so, we should look at whether the information we have is enough for decision making. And finally, are we a collaborative company because we have employees and processes linked to our decision making? Here the problem will be how flexible our processes are. This interrogative should be solved based on the attributes we mentioned above. Our day-to-day is based on making decisions. It is up to us to analyze how we should make them and analyze the results of each of them. Unfortunately, there is no exact guide to decision making, but we can make use of tools to improve on each of these. Decision making is a very high responsibility that will allow us to solve or demise a situation. That is why administrators must rely on all the tools they can. But if we focus on our day-to-day as ordinary people, our life is also based on making decisions. Daily, we select a decision between different alternatives considering the background and the result of them. We could bring the 5 attributes Kimberly mentions in her research to our lives to assess the behavior we have for making decisions. That is, we might know how much we consider the alternative we have, how much information we use to make decisions, how detailed we make an implementation plan, how much we learn from our successes and failures, and how much we are communicating our plans. This could be considered a way to get to know ourselves. Thus, we must only study the alternatives that are presented to us. We must also study ourselves to determine how we make decisions and where we can improve. Although we make decisions for our companies, ultimately, we are the ones who make those decisions. That's why the best complement to the analysis we did for our company is to implement. On the other hand, we also have to keep in mind that the world is always changing and we must adapt correctly. Even though the company prefers to work in a certain way, they must be able to act depending on the situation. It's clear that maybe it can be more simple in some organizations than others, but let's see an example. An unilateral firm is looking for new opportunities to get expanded. There is an offer from another company that wants to help the firm with this. However, the leader is not sure about it, and all the new process is going to require a lot of money and resources. In order to make a better decision, change the approach to a collaborative firms is the best option, so that they can make better decisions, and in the new phase, everyone is going to be aware and work together. It is important that companies of all sizes take care of the decision making and how they create the strategies. The main goal of a company should always be to grow, and to do it, they must make the right decisions at the right moment, so they must find, depending on the industry where they are, which approach fits better and be flexible about it in the moments that they need it. Also, take a look at what things they can improve and which one they can ignore, because every business. Finally, another thing from the article that we can highlight is the fact that it's important that companies have information about how they perform. Studies like the one from the article can give a perspective to leaders to know where they are and how other companies develop their strategies, so they can learn and make adjustments. That's all, Mr. Duarte. Take care. See you on class. Thanks.